with Greg Rucka, who most of you should know because he writes a lot of really good books. And for those of you that don't, you're going to know him now because he is writing Siphon Filter Logan's Shadow for the PSP. So, Greg, how'd you get involved in the game?
I got involved when Connie Booth and John Garvin sort of reached out to me, showed me what they had on the game so far, and then said, did I want to take a sort of pass on the story? And I said, yeah, and it went from there.
Now, this is your kind of first official foray into games, although you've been kind of flirting with them. So tell us about your other game work and why you finally decided to make the leap into actual game.
Well, it was really a question of opportunity, you know. I mean, I've been lucky in my career. I write comics because I love comics. I write novels because the genre of novels I like, I've loved, right? Those are the ones I read. I play video games, so I was looking for the opportunity. And there had been some near misses in the past on games that hadn't quite executed. And then when this one came around, it hit me at possibly the worst scheduling time I've had in the last, 5 years of work. And still it was an opportunity where I was like, oh, I got to do this thing. So it was very rewarding just on the, just being a part of that design and seeing how it is that you write a game around the needs of the game. You know, how you make the story work in the confines of what the game needs to be.
As far as games go, I mean, you are very busy and you do many things that sort of intersect with the game world, but how much of a gamer are you?
I don't know. How do you rate it? You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7. You know, I think every day of my life I am playing a video game or a game of some sort for some amount of time. But I've got 2 kids. And I've got deadlines. So, you know, that maybe I played for 15 minutes as opposed to I played for 4 hours like I used to way back in the days when I didn't have deadlines and didn't have kids.
And so were you familiar with the Siphon Filter franchise when you got on?
I wasn't actually familiar with Siphon Filter, but that was because I actually hadn't sprung for the PSP yet. So when they talked to me about it and they said, you know the games, I was like, no. And they said, well, we'll fix that. And they did. They sent me all this incredible material. And then, of course, I played through all the games. I read all. And Garvin had done just reams of work, you know, developing Logan's universe, the ancillary characters, everything about it. So it's very rich. You know, I was able to immerse myself very quickly in it.
So what was it like writing a story that's, to some degree, interactive as opposed to something you have total control over?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's disingenuous to say it's interactive. The narrative of the game is the narrative of the game, and it's interactive in as much as if you fail the mission, you die, and you will play again until you complete the mission. You know what I mean? It was more important, I think, to me, and I think one of the things that John responded to was that the story matter, that it not be, oh no, a terrorist has a nuke, we must stop him story. Because we've played that story 1,000 times, and we pretty much know how that story ends. Either you stop the terrorist, and everybody lives happily ever after, or you don't, and, you know, Los Angeles is a smoking crater of glass. And since option 2 is not really a viable option for any major game studio at this point, unless they're going post-apocalyptic, you know you're going to end up with option 1. But like I said, there was all this incredible work. You know, there were all these games that had come before. And we had these ideas on who Gabe was and who Leanne was and who Teresa was, all these people that were in Logan's world. But we hadn't actually dealt with their relationships. And to me, that's what a story is about. There's emotional content. You have to feel something. It doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to play it and get weepy or choked up, but it means that you need to invest in it. And you don't have to be obligated to a huge investment, but you do need to be engaged in the story. You've got to care. And the way that you care is by caring about what the characters are doing and why they're doing it. And stopping a nuke is not a big enough reason, because that's not an emotional reason, if that makes sense. It's a great plot reason. Everybody understands the plot reason. If you don't do it, bad things will happen, right? But that story, to use a huge cliche, that story becomes more compelling when you say, no, I have to stop the nuke because my mom lives in L.A. You know what I mean? So trying to find ways to establish an emotional content to the story uh, with these characters that really, and the thing was, they're very rich. John really had created these very complex people that you had barely scratched the surface of because, for the most part, the goal of the game is Gabe gets mission. Gabe accomplishes mission. And during courses of mission, other emotional stuff develops. But the previous game to Logan Shadow, Dark Mirror, was probably the most character-heavy game they had done so far, which is, big spoiler for the game. He finds out that he has a child. And then, they put Logan Shadow in front of me, and I said, where's the stuff about Addison? Where's the stuff about the kid? And they were like, we didn't do anything. I was like, you got to do something with that. You cannot say, oh, by the way, you're dad. And then in the next game be like, well, it's business as usual here at the agency, Very, very long answer and all over the place. But, I mean, it should give you an idea of the kind of things that at least I was thinking about. And like I said, John was very, very receptive. I mean, we worked, I think, very, very well together. I've got great respect for him. I think he's very, very talented.
You're also in a very unique position to comment on the position of writers in kind of these entertainment medias, because comics and games tend to be sort of not necessarily not respected, but they don't carry as much weight as I wrote a novel or I wrote a movie. So now we're seeing the graphics are coming to, much closer to real life than ever. We're seeing bigger talent being hired. What do you think about the writing? What do you think about the stories?
I think they're getting there. I haven't played BioShock yet. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think BioShock may be the emotional crossover I've been waiting for. There have been moments where we've touched greatness that I've played, and I obviously haven't played every game. But, the new Tomb Raider game, it had a wonderfully emotionally resonant ending that catches you by surprise. And I thought, well, we need more of that. And just quality of writing across the board, very, very solid. You look at the writing in that game, it's witty, it's smart, it's consistent all the way through. I think that we're now in a place in the industry where it was easy at the start to say, well, the most important thing is the engine. The most important thing is how it's going to look. Because, frankly, that was probably quite valid. But like in Hollywood, writers were sort of, the bastard stepchild. And now I think you're starting to see a greater... I'll tell you what I think it is, honestly. I think it is video games like comics have suffered from... we love them, but we also kind of hate ourselves for loving them. Because there are all these people out there that either are or we think are sort of sneering at us and going, you're geeks and nerds, and we don't like that. And as we've sort of gotten our legs underneath us and said, you know what, this is legitimate. This is art. Or it has the potential to be art. Well, the second you do that, then you can start talking about the other things. Then you can start talking seriously about what the story's going to be. You can start talking seriously about what the writing needs to do. You can start talking about the art of the game in a very different way, rather in terms of what's going to be cool and what's going to be functional, but what is the desired, culminating effect here. And in the way that you write a novel, in the way that you write a comic, in the way that you make a movie, you can now start crafting to an end result. And we're nearly there. I mean, like I said, I haven't played everything, but I've seen enough games come really close that I think we're on the cusp of having interactive theater in a very different way, which might be a way to put it, or interactive drama, maybe. And that doesn't mean every game's got to make you cry or laugh or whatnot, but excuse me. But I think that there are games you play because you don't care. It's hard to get emotionally involved in Bejeweled. You know what I mean? But those games that you're going to care about, are the games that you're going to go back to and play again and again. And there are games, I just dug out the Fallout series. Talk about games that are 10 years old now, but they still hold up. So.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely interested in continuing to explore kind of a role in games. So do you think we'll see more from you in games?
I hope so. I mean, it could be that it could be that I'm totally wrong, and that everybody I worked with was like, "Oh my God, he was awful." But I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that there will be further opportunity. It's I'm a writer. It's what I do for a living, and to me that translates as storyteller. And I tell stories in comics. I've been writing for DC for years now. I write for Oni Press. Do Queen and Country and so on. I've got novels, there's a new novel coming out, but end of August, Patriot Acts, right? I think of myself as a storyteller first and foremost, and different stories are going to be better told in different mediums. Comics can tell a kind of story that novels can't. Video games can tell a kind of story that movies can't, that novels can't. I really believe that. And I want to be there for that. I want to be a part of that.
Sweet. Well, we definitely look forward to seeing what you wind up with next. All right. Well, that's it with Greg Rucka. Thank you, sir. And we will bring more from the PAX show floor very soon.